Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and today is a very special episode for me because it is my birthday. Yes, and I'm so excited to be spending it with all of you, and I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate than by sharing this important conversation about embracing imperfections and finding balance in our lives. You know, as many of you know, this month's series is called Act of Balancing Life. And we've been exploring how to create more harmony in different areas of our lives. And today's episode is all about overcoming perfectionism, a topic that hits close to home for me because as I am a self-proclaimed recovering perfectionist, I have had to learn how to let go of the needs of perfection and embrace the beauty of imperfection. But before we dive in, I want to remind you that we have some great resources available to you on your journey. You can download our free mini ebook, 5 Simple Ways to Set Your Intentions for a Harmonious Life. And for those who want to go deeper, we have a full 102-page ebook workbook available called Balance Act, a guide to harmonize your life. Now, let's start today's episode with grounding with meditation. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to get deep into the topic. But as you know, we're going to ground ourselves as well, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back. What are some common barriers that prevent people from expressing? Hey, it's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here from the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Yeah, I would say remorse. So shame and guilt is a very dividing emotional.
And these are one of the many amazing conversations that we have every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast with myself, Nyomi Banks, as well as our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington of Washington Wellness Institute. Come by.
The reality of our relationships with people.
Come by.
And a lot of times we're afraid of how people look at us. And so that compassion can't enter.
You can hit us on our website,
really
the Season of Self-Love podcast.com. Let me ask you this, with the truth, is it... Hey, it's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks, and make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. We're bridging the gap between them all, and we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by. Me and Dog Pound Mike, as well as the BTG crew. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to axnyomi.com and tell them Nyomi sent you. All right, well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I want to welcome you to this month's series, The Act of Balance in Life. And today we're talking about overcoming perfectionism. But before we get into the topic of hand, you know how we do it. We usually start off with a nice guided meditation, all right? So I invite you all to close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose. And slowly exhale through your mouth, out your mouth. Now I want you to inhale deeply again through your nose, filling your lungs with air. And now I want you to exhale slowly, releasing any tension or stress that you may be holding on to. As you continue to breathe deeply, I want you to imagine yourself letting go of the need for perfection. I want you to visualize any thoughts of self-criticism or unrealistic expectations melting away with each exhale. In their place, I want you to welcome self-compassion, kindness, and acceptance. Now, there's two words that I want you to focus on right now. And that one word is self-love, and the other word is perfectionism. Now, I want you to inhale deeply, self-love. And I want you to hold for a moment. And then I want you to exhale, perfectionism. Now, I want you to remind yourself that you are enough, just as you are, with all of your beautiful imperfections. Now, I want you to take one more deep breath in and slowly release. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes and bring your awareness back to the present moment. I thank you for sharing this moment with me. And if you are new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, it's something that we do every day, Monday through Friday, that we ground ourselves before we get into the topic at hand. So now that we are centered, let's talk about today's topic, overcoming perfectionism. You see, perfectionism is something that so many of us struggle with, whether it's in our work or our relationship or even how we take care of ourselves. It's that inner voice that tells us we have to be perfect in everything that we do, or we're not good enough. But here's the truth. Here's the truth. Perfection isn't real. Perfection ain't real, y'all. Perfection is not real. However way you put it, it ain't real. You see, the need for perfection can create a lot of imbalance in our lives, and it make us to set unrealistic expectations. So when we inevitably fall short of those expectations, we feel like what? We failed. You see, this creates a cycle of self-criticism and burnout. And throughout this series, we've talked with several different guests and we talked about burnouts, you know? And I know, like I said, again, I am a recovering perfectionist. And as one, I know how hard it can be to break free from this cycle. When I tell you that I was on this cycle for at least 40 years of my life, I'm 52 today. So out of 40 years of my life, I was going on this perfectionist circle of self-criticism and other things. I mean, there were times when I felt like nothing I did was ever good enough, even when I was achieving so much. But me learning to embrace imperfections has helped me to find balance in my life. And this has given me so much more peace, so much more joy, and more freedom to be myself without the constant pressure to be perfect. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how perfectionism affects our balance. And I'll share some strategies that have helped me and others to let go of the need for perfection and embrace life imperfections. Before we dive into some practical tips, I want to share a letter that I received from one of our listeners. And this letter really resonated with me, especially in the context of letting go of perfectionism. And they write, I recently listened to your episode of Embracing Imperfections, and it hit me hard. I've always struggled with perfectionism, and I realized that it's been holding me back from truly enjoying life. I'm constantly worried about making mistakes and not measuring up, and it's exhausting. but something you said in that episode really stuck with me. You mentioned the importance of giving ourselves grace and celebrating progress rather than perfection. And I'm learning to do that little by little. And it's helping me to find more balance in my life. Thank you for your guidance. Sincerely, a grateful listener. Now, first of all, I want to say thank you for that listener for sharing that story. And I think that so many of us can relate to that, for being exhausted by perfectionism. And I want to share this. That episode that they are talking about is I did it last season. And we were kind of breaking down with different weeks of different topics during the week. And I believe we were talking about embracing perfectionism. And I think that was the first time that I was truly open about how me trying to be so perfect has stifled my growth. See, what I realized is that the truth is that progress is not perfection. It is what matters the most. You see, learning to give ourselves grace and celebrate how far we come, even if we're not exactly where we want to be, is a huge step towards balance. So I want to make sure that I say this right. The truth is that progress, not perfection, is what matters. And I'm going to say it one more time in case it got mixed up. Because after I said it, I said, wait a minute, I didn't say that correctly. It might get misconstrued when the listeners are listening to it, right? The truth is progress. It's all about progress and not perfection. Does it get that? That is what matters. Progress matters, not perfection. All right, we got that. So learning to give ourselves grace and celebrate how far that we come, even if we're exactly where we want to be, is a huge step towards our balance. So right now I'm going to give you, let's talk about some strategies for letting go of perfectionism and finding more balance in your life. The first one that I want to talk about is self-awareness. The first step is recognizing when perfectionism is showing up in your life. And I want you to pay attention to the situations that trigger your perfectionist tendencies, whether it's at work, in your relationship, or even how you manage your personal time. I'm going to say, for me, it was all three. It was all three. And I know you all wondering, Nyomi, how were you managing that? I'm going to tell you something. It was a lot of anxiety and stress that was going along with that. A lot of anxiety and stress that was going along with that. Back then, I wasn't setting realistic goals for my time limit that I was given. I was setting unrealistic goals. And that's the next one. That's the next strategy. Once I learned about these unrealistic goals that I was setting. So let me say this. When I say unrealistic goals, I'm not meaning that I would never reach those goals. I'm meaning the time limit. The time limit in the things that I was trying to do in a short span. Now knowing that I didn't even have the tools for all of that. Does that make sense? All right. So that's what I mean when I say about me setting unrealistic goals. But in my mind, when I heard that unrealistic goals, I got a defense. And it was like, oh, I can do that. Yeah, I can. But can I do it in that amount of time? Remember, you're a mother. You have a job to do. You have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So don't set yourself up for failure. And that's what I was doing. And what I mean by that, setting myself up for failure, that means that I was setting unrealistic goals with unrealistic times, knowing that I had other obligations that needed to be done first, that I needed to prioritize. I wasn't even prioritizing my moments and my days of things that I had to do. That's how I knew that wasn't going to happen. I didn't know then, but I know now. So setting realistic goals. And as I mentioned, perfectionists often set unrealistic goals that are impossible to achieve. So instead of me focusing on my progress over perfection, I wasn't. So even though I was progressing, I was getting upset because I wasn't where I was supposed to be, or at least where I thought I was supposed to be at that time. So it was, excuse my language, we were like, fuck, what I've already done thus far. Ain't that messed up? And when I say ain't that messed up, I'm not saying like shame on you. I'm saying is now I realize that's about self-awareness for me. Now I realize that I should have been focusing on the progress. So what that allowed me to do is that allowed me to set small achievable targets that allow me to celebrate my wins along the way. So it's like earlier last year in the season, I was talking about, us building a skyscraper. And each step is a goal. And when I get on that landing, that first floor, that's one. All right, so now I got my second floor, but I got so many stairs in between there. And each one of those steps or one of those stairs is a goal to get to that second landing. That's what I had to do for myself to understand about setting realistic goals for me. Now, the next one is embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. As perfectionism, we teach us to fear mistakes. Perfectionism teaches us to fear mistakes. But mistakes are where our growth happens. When we start seeing failures and setbacks as opportunities to learn, then we improve rather than a reflection of our worth. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So instead of fearing the mistakes, and when you begin to fear the mistakes, then you tend to do what? You tend not to do what it is you set out to do, not the way that you want to do it, because now you're leading that in fear. But instead you say, okay, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to see how this works. And if it doesn't work, what part of that did work, and what did I learn for what did not work? That's how I became to learn how to understand my mistakes. And then I stopped taking my mistakes out and say, these are lessons that I've learned. And from lessons that I learned, and I say, these are gifts that I received from those lessons. Does that make sense? Which helped me to shift my mindset. So when I just went to those three things, it did what? It shifted my mindset. So like replacing the words I must or I should with I choose. I must or I should with I choose. So now you putting it back into your hands. I choose to do rather than I must. You see, when you shift the language, it reduces the pressure that you put on yourself and empowers you to make decisions that align with your values and well-being. And the next is practice gratitude. Focus on what you've accomplished rather than what's missing. Gratitude helps shift your perspective from lack of to abundance, which is very essential for finding the balance. All right, so now I want to share an insight from you from our chapter 2 of our workbook, Balancing Act, a Guide to Harmonizing Your Life. And in this chapter, we focus on assessing your life and conducting a life imbalance inventory. So one of the key takeaways from this chapter is the importance of self-assessment. And I talked about that a little bit as one of our strategies of self-awareness. Self-awareness is part of self-assessment, okay? We often feel out of balance when our lives aren't aligned with our core values. And by taking time to reflect on what truly matters to us, we can start by making decisions that bring more balance and fulfillment into our lives. All right, I want to share something with you that I had did an e-course last year on embracing self-love. I believe that what it was. And one of the exercises that I did with them was to have them to pick out their core values. I had a list about 200 core values, like 200 and something core values that I had them pick. And within it, I told them to pick, well, I picked 9. I told them, your favorite number, pick whatever your favorite number was, 7, 5, 10, whatever. They're your core values, and you pick from that your core values of who you are. And then I asked them to write a poem using their core values and print it out and, put it in your office or whatever. And so, of course, I did it as well. And I chose 9. And I'm going to read them to you. My 9, and I'm going to read it: love, empathy, compassion, uniqueness, spirituality, humility, inspiring, success, family, and integrity. Those are my 9 core values. And this is the poem that I wrote with these words included in it about myself. I say, I, Nyomi, lead in love in everything I do, knowing that having empathy and compassion for others make my uniqueness even more unique. I embrace my spirituality and sexuality with boldness while still keeping my humility intact. Inspiring others is what lights me up, knowing that my true success is my family and in my integrity. So when I tell you, looking at this every morning, this truly helps ground me. But not only that, it also is a mirror image of myself, because these are my true values of who I am, regardless to what anyone's thought is. It's love, empathy, compassion, uniqueness, spirituality, humility, inspiring, success, family, and integrity. And this has always been me. Yeah, there's some other stuff that's in there, but this has always been my core values, my 9 core values of who I am. So once you're able to pick truly what's your core values? Is it love? Is empathy in there? Is a part of your makeup compassion? Is a part of your makeup spirituality? Is a part of your makeup humility? To be inspiring, is that a part of your makeup? Is success a part of your makeup? Is that part of your core value? Family, integrity. And it's up for you to choose. I just wanted to share that with you before we get more into here, because with this chapter, and I think I said a little bit in the ebook as well, but in this chapter, it includes exercises that guide you through identifying your core values and assessing your priorities and recognize areas of imbalance. And it's very powerful too for anyone that's looking to create a life that feels more aligned and authentic. And as I said before, you can use this very exercise that I just said. Because guess what that is? That is you that you are writing about. I joked before about those are the ingredients that make me up. Those are the ingredients. Those are the spices. My core values are spices that makes Nyomi. Make me whoever I am. Regardless to what name that I use, these are the ingredients of my spirit and my soul. Does that make sense? And so I no longer look to be perfect in it, and to enjoy this journey, enjoy my life, and appreciate every moment that I'm here. I have this picture of me as a 2-year-old on Halloween, and I have it on my mirror. And that is who I talk to when I'm doing my mirror imaging. I'm talking to that 2-year little girl with makeup on and a wig. But when I look in the full mirror, I'm looking at this 52-year-old. I ain't got on a wig today. I got some weave in my hair, but a wig. But you understand what I'm saying? So when I talk to that 2-year-old, And then I remembered that 9-year-old. I remembered that 14, that 12-year-old, that 22-year-old. And that shows me that in all of those, from 2 to 52, it was those 9 core values that I had within me. And even through that, all of that, there was amazing progress and growth from the time I was 2 years old, even before then, to who I am today. So now when I can share my stories on some of the things that happened in my life, they don't hurt as bad anymore. They don't hurt. Because now I can see them as tools, as gifts for myself, as growth for me. And what I can do is I use them as teaching tools for others. Does that make sense? All right. So one thing is I love to hear from my listeners about your own experiences with perfectionism and balance. And if you've had any questions or stories to share, feel free to reach out on social media or through email. You know, I've received so many insightful messages from listeners about how they are navigating the balance between striving for excellence and embracing imperfections. And one of the things that I've noticed is that the more we talk about our struggles with perfectionism, the more that we realize that we are not alone. You see, we all have moments of doubt and self-criticism, but by sharing our experiences, we can support each other in letting go of the need for perfection. All right, my beautiful people, so as we wrap up today's episode, I want you to remind yourself of key points that we discussed about overcoming perfectionism. I want you to start with self-awareness. Recognize those perfectionist thoughts and behaviors and challenging them with more compassionate, realistic alternatives. I want you to remember to focus on progress and not perfection. And to celebrate your achievements no matter how small they are. And again, if you're looking for more guidance for finding balance in your life, be sure to download our free mini ebook. And for those that are ready to go deeper, grab the full workbook. It's available as well. So take some time today to reflect on your relationship with perfectionism. 1, how has it shown up in your life? And what steps can you take to start letting go of it? And I want you to remember that it's okay to be imperfect. It's what makes you human, and it's what makes life beautiful. I believe that is the most beautiful thing that we have, is our uniqueness. Again, I want to thank you for joining me today on the Season of Self-Love, and I hope that this episode has inspired you to embrace your imperfections and find more balance in your life. And since it's my birthday today, I want to wish each and every one of you a wonderful filled with self-love and joy, and of course, balance. Again, I am so grateful to share this space with you, and I hope that you all join me tomorrow as we continue the Act of Balancing Life series. I want you to take care of yourselves and keep practicing self-love. And remember, progress, not perfection. So until next time, my beautiful people, have an amazing day. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.